keep getting interrupted, but it's okay because there's a lot of energy coming through, and it's just probably spirits just trying to divvy it up so I can slow down. Yeah, I wrote down Avenue Q just for now, but there's definitely someone who's devoted to you, and I think it feels more like a romantic energy of maybe someone who's like sort of just in your energy. I don't know how involved it is right now, but there's somebody who holds a torch for you, which keeps coming up in my readings, and I feel like they don't care one way or another if something happens, but at the same time, I'm just hearing delicate flower. This person, like, you know, they don't want to interrupt the ecosystem of your life, but they do care for you. They would like to be involved. And I feel like they don't want to like be a burden, because I was talking about the Ten of Wands before, but I feel like they are just like rooting for you in some way. Okay. We got the Tower. Ooh, okay. So there's something here in your life where it feels like all the walls have crumbled down. It feels like all of your maybe goals or dreams are just not happening, or there was a tower. I'm hearing there was a tower, and now you're building on top of that, like rubble. I'm thinking a little bit about 9/11, and that card just makes me feel that energy. I grew up in Westport, Connecticut, so I was right next to New York City when this happened, and there was actually smoke coming across the water. And we went to I went to the city a lot, and for plays or just for anything fun. And I remember seeing the signs everywhere for 2 years of missing people. It was almost like a collective, we can't accept this. Like people just not being able to accept that their missing loved ones were dead. And they were in that rubble, a lot of them found. I'm just getting something like that. I'm thinking about how the firefighters, like for years, had like issues with their breathing. There's something like that where you're still recovering from some big tower moment, and it's like, just let yourself take your time, take all the time you need. Screw all these timelines. Oh, I have to have it like this at this age or this way at this time. It's like, no, you don't have to do anything at any time beyond what spirit's timing is for you. But I'm also feeling like you're like moving that wheel, and you're healing. You know, you're not staying stagnant. You're moving forward. Okay, before I get to these cards, I wrote down, I'm gonna talk about my child's writing for a minute. I wrote down someone needs meds. I don't even know where that comes from. Oh, because somebody was like following me really close today, and I pride myself on most, pretty much 98% of the time, just saying nothing to anyone with like road rage, or someone who's trying to get involved with me on the road, because I see them as Vadim Zealand would call it, pendulums, which is like, it's a trap. It's a negativity trap, and they're trying to suck you in like a magnet, and you're just like, I don't have the energy to be part of this with you. There's something like that too in your energy. With the Ten of Wands reverse, it's like, and you're walking slow and steady, Knight of Pentacles, towards what you want, and that's it's almost like everything else in the world, I'm hearing tunnel vision. You're less bothered, and it's really great, and it's really cool, and it took a long time, because you were bothered by people for a long time, but you're like, okay, do I want to spend and sometimes there's situations where someone's really in our face, and it's like, maybe they're harassing us, or they're like getting in our personal space, and we have to actually set that boundary, like, hey, get away from me. But you know, a lot of times there is that space, and we can not get sucked into the pendulum is like a negative swing. I don't want to get caught in this negative swing all the way towards negativity with you. Or actually, there could be toxic positivity going on too. But it was like a burden. It was like other people in the past were like pulling you into their shit over and over, and you had no boundaries, because I don't know why, but now that's healed, and you're like boundaried the F up. And I wrote, someone needs meds. There may be somebody in your life who's like got mental illness, or here's what I'm getting. You've had some mental health issues, and there's someone you're seeing who they're suffering, and you have thought in the past that like medication, even temporary medication, would help this person. And I don't think they're open to it. Come on, haven't we all had those times where just a little something, even if it's just herbal business is what I'd like to say, takes the edge off. At the same time, I think you're learning You know, I used to be someone who had to like use weed vape like every day, and now sometimes I just forget. Like I love marijuana. Sorry, I'm openly speaking about it here as like a healing tool. Specifically, I try not to use like I try not to use flour, but sometimes I do. But usually I exercise a lot, so sometimes I just don't like think of it because I'm like I've got other things going on. But I feel like that's a similar thing for you. There's something that you use as a crutch. It could be alcohol, it could be weed, it could be a real drug, or it could, I mean, like a serious drug, or it could be like something where it sort of blurs the lines. Like, you know, some people go to like in-person ketamine treatments. Like I know somebody who does that, or I would never be able to do that. It's too much for me. Or people who do just like ayahuasca or stuff like that, or shrooms. I'm thinking like I'm just thinking, or also just even just like passion flower or kava is a really good tool, or even just the birch flower remedies. Is that what they're called? Birch. Those are, I used to be really into those. I recommend them from Whole Foods. They're like flowers or herbs like distilled in alcohol, and you could just like it's like a tincture. I'm just, there's something that you used a lot and you were like, I have to have it every day, and now you're just like, you're like getting your high from something else, or you're less anxious overall, and that's really cool. And I just want to commend you really quickly for that. The North Node is going into Aquarius, so don't be scared, but here's the deal with that. So first of all, that means the South Node is in Leo, which would be conjunct right now with Jupiter and Leo. So to me, I think that means some stuff from our past is there's also a bunch of planets in retrograde right now, so the past is like weirdly coming up. Some stuff from the past is like actually guiding our lives because it's conjunct Jupiter and the North Node. The South Node is the past. Sorry, conjunct Jupiter, since Jupiter is in Leo. So Jupiter, Leo, and the South Node, that means like, it almost means that we're like mining gold from past hurts or past negativity. We're like, yeah, I want to read it that way, as like there's things that you're moving beyond and you're finding, you know, Jupiter and Leo, I don't know if people have mentioned this, but it can be major money time or major financial situation, especially seeing where it hits your chart, because the sun, Leo is where the sun shines. Jupiter is something that gets bigger, and it's also abundance, like money. So also Jupiter can be more for more's sake. So there may be a little tendency for excess here, just with stuff, because Leo can have a little bit of a like let's indulge tendency. You know, that's why they have problems with the heart as they age, most Leos, because they've been like, well, you know, they really love abundance and like wealth, and they're kings in their castle, and they're not going to deny themselves any of the sort of material things they want, and that has to do with food sometimes, or drinking, or just experimenting with drugs. So a lot of them can wind up with heart issues. Okay, so this is leading me to a greater conversation. Since the North Node is in Aquarius right now, that does mean that the collective, which rules Aquarius, is like coming to the forefront. There's like some greater humanitarian issues that are going to be like guiding us, like, you know, what is right in society? How do we make things fair? How do we make things better? Aquarius is, you know, it's a weird sign because it's ruled by Uranus, which, yes, that's proper pronunciation, and Saturn. So it's like, the Saturn is like similar to Capricorn, which is also ruled by Saturn. It's like, okay, here's practical things. I need money. I love money. You may not realize, but Aquarius is a big money sign because it's similar to Sagittarius. It's a sign of luck. And you can see where your luck spots are by looking at Jupiter and Aquarius. Anyway, so there's a chance for sort of like just good fortune, and also the North Node and Uranus, I was gonna say the relationship between sort of negative heart matters, which can be the South Node in Leo, like maybe just negative emotional heart matters, negative childhood stuff, negative things with authority, leaving that in the past and moving towards genius thought. Remember, geniuses, they don't, I'm thinking jack of all trades, master of none. They don't need to know, like, okay. I'm thinking of the movie, I was going to say they don't need to know everything. What they do is they look at systems and they look at patterns and they read between the lines and go the easy way. So there's a lot of capacity for that kind of thought for the collective right now with the North Node and Aquarius, for people to see their lives from a once removed perspective, to leave behind old heart pain and move towards embracing the mental, embracing the communicative aspect of life, embracing community as well, and actually being a little more detached. So that's really what the collective is headed towards. And so it's like the collective is headed towards the collective. The collective is headed towards humanitarianism and spirituality, relating to the star card, which relates to Aquarius. Star card. Yeah, so Aquarius North Node is also, Aquarius is the water bearer. So there's something that, like, you're bringing it to be healed, I want to say. Like, you know, a lot of people hide the things that they don't want to be healed. I used to wear, or I do wear wigs, but sorry, I'm fixing my bra. It's like all messed up. I usually wear headscarves as of late, just because I'm doing this treatment that necessitates putting something topical on my head twice a day, and I'm trying to preserve my wig and keep it so that, I don't know, even if I have hair, I can wear it if I want to be a freak and be a weirdo. I was gonna say for between age 22, maybe 20. No, this was age 20, maybe, and then like maybe until I was like 30, I like wore my wig obsessively. I had a suction cup wig, so it looked very realistic because I didn't have any hair on my head. Now I am growing a lot of hair. I'll put a picture, but it's suction to your head, which is great, but not on a summer day where you're shooting sweating sheets of sweat. At the same time, it was empowering to not have people asking me all the time, because I was, you know, I am kind of a reserved person. I have the Aries rising, Mars in the 6th house with Mars in Libra, so I'm not your typical Aries rising. I'm a little bit more, life is concerned with daily tasks, health issues, and routine. The 6th house, very Virgo-y. I also have South Node in Virgo, if you really want to know. But very perfectionist-y stuff in my chart. But I was gonna say, like, there's just something that you're able to see metacognition, which keeps coming up in my readings. Like, you're able to also just forgive yourself and others for past things, but also I feel, you know, the South Node in Leo can be, I may have said this, just leaving behind childhood, leaving our childhood ways. Oh, this is leading me to Corinthians. When I was a child, I thought like a child. When I became an adult, I thought like an adult. This is from Corinthians. And then it says, it's like, it says all these things are good, but the main thing you need is love. It's like hope, you know, being a good person or whatever. I'm paraphrasing. Love. When I was a child, I thought like a child. When I became an adult, I thought like an adult. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then I will know and be known, and I will see all at once. I'm paraphrasing it, but that's from the King James version, I think, which is a little different from, I'm sort of mixing Protestant and Catholic versions of it, but I really like the version of Corinthians that says, and I'm not doing the part where people do in weddings. It goes further down where they're like, love is patient, love is kind, whatever. The beginning part is much better, and there's actually a really good movie called Through a Glass Darkly. I think it's oh God, who did this? I think it's a Bergman film about a young woman who's like mentally ill. It's from the 50s, and her not her husband, her Freudian slip, her father, she's this enmeshed relationship with her father, and she like, it's very dramatic. I think she may kill herself in that movie. I don't know, it's a black and white film. Yeah, just that energy here. Through a glass darkly. It's like you've been, so you're leaving your childish ways behind, South Node and Leo, and you're walking towards, and I'm not saying you've been acting like a child. I just think that that's literally how you're thinking, which is a really mature way to think. You're just like, well, I can't really be part of these old dynamics that are really toxic and negative for me. South Node and Leo can be just like toxic, maybe some violent situation, okay, is in the past here. Because a negative Leo can be a little brash and a little destructive. Remember, it's the king of the jungle. They're on the prowl. So there may have been a predator like that in your past. Someone who took from you, someone who was negative. I wrote down Phenomenology of Perception, which is a book by Merleau-Ponty. And I just recommend it. It's French, but you can get an English version, and even just one chapter. It's a little bit of a hard read, but really it's about phenomenology, which is a Hegelian thing from Hegel, but it is used a lot in a therapeutic way, like in people who are studying to be therapists. They talk about just events and things out there affecting us in here, like in our world, like the phenomena of the world. When we interact with it, it affects us, and so it can be used in terms of like, how did your background affect you? How did this trauma affect you? How is it affecting your body, your mind, whatever? Your electromagnetic field is what I would like to say. The trauma affects the electromagnetic field, which I think you're now healing a little bit. Also, North Node in Aquarius can be seeing the future, actually. A lot of Aquarians have the ability to be a little bit psychic and see what's around the corner. So, similar to, what's her name? I met her, actually. The Warrens, Elaine Warren. Maybe this is her coming through, because I'm obsessed with all the Conjuring movies, and just, I researched her heavily. I've watched tons of interviews, and I know her astrology. She was an Aquarius. I think cusping Pisces, or maybe I'm wrong, but I actually just, I met her because I don't think she would remember me at all, but I don't think I touched her or shook hands with her, but I just was like in a group of people coming up to say hi. But she gave a lecture at UConn when I was just an undergrad there many years ago, and it was fascinating. And I remember being scared. I remember being like, because I always was sensitive to like stuff like that. Years later, I became obsessed with horror and scary movies and stuff like that for, I don't know why, probably to deal with some deeply held trauma. But at the time, it was a little much watching this video of someone, especially coming from a very Catholic upbringing. I'd been confirmed and everything, and like, it was just like, I remember going back to my dorm and being scared, because it was so like just potent. This video of this guy having an exorcism, and there was like writing that came up on his skin, and I was like, there's no way they could fake that. Ooh, Elaine Warren, North Node Aquarius. Yeah, if this is her coming through, there's something that it's been like, it's like a demonic presence. It's been like tugging at you, and you're just now seeing what it is and letting go and detaching. And it's taken realizing that those things exist to be able to let go of it, which has been hard, which really is Seven of Cups, which we pulled earlier. It's like, oh gosh, you're really a monster. Or it's like, when I was little, we lived in Florida for like a year and a half on Key Biscayne, right off of Miami. So I remember going bike riding and seeing these alligators and being like, well, I'm safe on my bike. It's like that. It's like, and I was thinking that today because I was walking and there were all these signs for coyotes, and I was like, well, there were these kids biking on their own, and I thought, well, they're on their bike, so if anything happens, they can just go on their bikes. I mean, that's not like the best way to think, but it's almost like you're in a place where you're like mind over matter. You're like, I'm protected, so you are protected. Elaine Warren. I'm seeing the doll. I've watched all those Annabelle movies. You know that doll, haunted doll. There's a doll that you had as a child and as a boy. You know, if you're a man, this could equally be like a doll, like Batman doll or toy or G.I. Joe. You had a doll that you played with. I'm seeing you play with it, and I think you were playing it because you were left alone a lot as a child. This can be South Node Leo. Maybe you had a sort of lackluster childhood where you felt lonely. And some of these, I wrote down loneliness. Lonely, I wrote down lonely with others, when with others. So remember, people who are lonely, you don't have to be completely isolated in your life to be lonely. Sometimes we can be lonely with a bunch of people around, or we can be lonely within a relationship. That's something to look at. South Node Leo here for the collective. There could be some stuff about childhood loneliness coming forward, and Elaine Warren showing me that doll that you played with. That doll was not a doll. It had an energy that you connected with. It was some person or energy guiding you through childhood. I also think maybe there's a possibility that you had an imaginary friend. For example, and sometimes we name our dolls after our imaginary friends, but that was, for example, I had a friend named Jane, and then I named my doll Jane and my bear Jane. But there's something here where like you thought in childhood that was just a toy, but it wasn't, and that guide is still with you, is what Elaine Warren wants to say, that you're being guided by some spirit guide that saw you go through that childhood, and they're helping you towards the future. That's all she has to say. Sorry, a little weird there, but she says weirdness is the price. Okay. Weirdness is the price of putting yourself out there. Jupiter and Leo, and being also, you know, Aquarius are really let your freak flag fly kind of people. So I feel like the collective is being called to really just be themselves here. I wrote down you're being weaned. There's something that you're being weaned off of by the greater universe. It's like that negative thing from the past. Maybe that like negative childhood, and I'm also getting that there was a negative relationship that you're weaning yourself from, like a romantic relationship. And we did get that positive person that's watching you or caring for you. You know, I think that I'm hearing nothing you could do. There's nothing you could do that could mess up how that person sees you. They see you as like golden for some reason, and I think that there may have been some criticisms of you that you're like, why are they so mean? But I also think that that's just, this person is critical. They're critical, and they're critical of themselves, but they truly do care about you. This person that is coming up in your energy, it's not this negative other situation from the past, okay? I wrote down Red Rover, send blah blah Red Rover. And that just means to me you're being beckoned by the universe. You're being called to really step up here in your life and show them what you're made of. I'm hearing, show them what you're made of. There's a skill or a talent you have that you're really honing in on, and you're just presenting it. And I'm also hearing alternative money sources. So specifically this viewer, person who's watching, you need to be open to changing how you think about money, okay? As an artist, I can speak to this. There's been a lot of situations in my life where I had to just reframe my abundance, and I was somewhere the other day and I saw a sign that said have gratitude for what you have, and I thought like, and then Spirit said in my head, even if it's nothing, because you have something valuable, not just what you have materially, which you should be grateful for. You could be grateful for. I hate to should people. Because remember, there's always someone who has less than that. It's not to scare you, but it's to just be aware. And Pocahontas, I wrote down Pocahontas, history and colors of the wind. Okay, so why is her history important, Spirit? Pocahontas' history is important. The real Pocahontas was like 14, I think, and she was like a child bride of John Smith, who was, I believe, a Dutch settler. And I think this is in the Northeast. I could be like in New York area. I could be wrong. But then she moved to England, and I don't know how much more is known about her beyond that. But there's something here where, like, you've had to assimilate, okay, to some other culture, and now I think you're just like, you're making that culture assimilate to you, okay? You're teaching someone who said conform to us, now you're teaching them to conform to you. And the colors of because I think she taught John Smith a lot, is what I will say, and she had a lot of power by the end of her life, sort of in that system. Not a lot of power, but some power in that sort of system or hierarchy that she was within, just in terms of like English nobility, I believe. And that was all just kismet and fate. Like, she, you know, I don't think she wanted to marry this man in real life. I think it was like sort of a captivity situation. You know, they frame it in Disney as this like beautiful romance, but you may have been in a situation like that in the past where you felt held captive, but you made it work, and now you're more powerful because you've worked through those beliefs that made you feel lesser than. You flipped the power dynamic. You flipped the dynamic. You flipped the power. Someone said, I've got all the power, and you said, oh, really? And you snapped your fingers, and it like turns the tables. Sorry. Just keep like letting my car rest for a second so it won't get overheated, but then it gets really hot. Avenue Q, just for now. Just for now. Oh, and Colors of the Wind with Pocahontas. Can you paint, sing with all the voices of the mountain? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? I watched that movie a million times as a kid. There's just something here about like, sing with all the voices of the mountain. Let other voices come in. You know, I think you've been a little isolated. Let other voices come in, and that may just be some person that you deliver for. You know, I don't know why I'm getting that vibe. Is there some Mercury stuff happening? Because Mercury can be short trips. There's something that you're like, there's someone that you see every day, and like, or maybe multiple people that like, they want to contribute something positive to you, and let them contribute. You know, don't be afraid to let in positivity, because it's not all negativity. Okay, and Spirit's telling me to wrap it up. I don't know why. I may be speaking too much. I have some automatic writing to do. I've been watching a lot of true crime. I don't know if there's somebody here who feels, okay, Temperance card, who feels like they're walking on eggshells in their life. Maybe you're in a legal situation. Temperance can be Sagittarius, which can be about the law in a more oblique way than Libra. So maybe there's just something in terms of society, or just like your I want to say career, that you're just like, I gotta like be careful here. I don't think you have to be that careful. I think you're just a careful person, and that's great. Getting some Virgo energy here. I am getting some Jupiter and Virgo for someone who's watching here, or North Node via Virgo. Somebody who's meticulous, somebody who pays attention to detail. That's you, I think. And I'm just want to say, take a load off. And Spirit's saying like, you got the details, you know, that's not going to stop. That way that your brain works, that's automatic, and it's a little bit of trauma from childhood. Just let your brain go, let it categorize, let it write its notes, let it add up the numbers, let it happen. Don't try to, it's like you're micromanaging your own way of functioning. Like, just let that be, is what I'm hearing. And don't worry too much, just in general. But Avenue Q, just for now, specifically in that, it's from Avenue Q, which is puppets. In that part, he goes, your hair is only for now. I just relate to that because I have alopecia. Actually, I really related to that because growing up, maybe that came out maybe in my 20s, and I was like, yeah, like, your hair is only for now, which was something that's like never been expressed, or had never been expressed in the arts in my mind. And it made me laugh, and usually a lot of comedy or stuff makes me cry about alopecia because people are so mean about baldness, but that just made me laugh. I was like, just for now. And now my hair's growing back, so it feels like a weird thing, but it's like, because there's new treatments that weren't there then. Just for now. It's all just for now, you know. That's what Spirit's saying with that like message. And with the puppets, maybe there's just some oh, I'm seeing a blue jay. I think blue jay is just a good omen. Which is, I also saw a cardinal yesterday, which is about partnership. But just for now, it's like you need to just realize in life that it's all just for now. Like, you know, you may be thinking something's forever, but it's all just for now. Any situation, any relationship, any marriage, any living situation, any job, it feels so in the now. It's in the right now. It feels permanent, but it's all just for now. I'm also hearing higher and higher vantage points leads to different points of contrast. You may be in a situation where you're like, you're gonna get out of something, you're seeing that it's like coming to a close, but you're a little afraid of the new contrast that's gonna come. You're like, well, now I'm gonna have to deal with this problem and this problem, this problem. It's okay, is what Spirit's saying. Like, just move forward and flow with the new problems, and just trust that Spirit's got your back, and you're gonna be guided towards how to fix these new problems with your new tools. Okay, I wrote W.S. Merwin, which is a poet, and specifically he wrote a poem that's like about absence, and I recommend that poem. I think it's just called Absence. It says like, sort of like, everything I do is threaded with your absence or something. It's really poetic and it's minimalistic. There's just somebody here that like, maybe this positive person that we talked about in the beginning of the reading, it's like, this person like thinks of you, and they like feel your absence, and they, you know, it's like they try to forget about you, but they still think of you, or they try to be mad at you, but then they just think of something positive about you, and it's almost like two magnets coming towards each other. And which is something I talked about. I talked a little bit about Niels Bohr the other day, which he talks about the electrons and atoms jumping up to higher points and then trying to meet each other, you know, because they go in these circular paths around each other to create the tension that creates an object, or whatever it is, to create an atom. The atoms within an object is what I was thinking. But okay, so a quantum jump is like what you're experiencing, and that was what I was trying to illustrate with that. But there's just something here that like, there's a quantum jump happening. I forget exactly where it's going to go with the Niels Bohr stuff. Sorry, I got a little distracted, but he does, oh yeah, he talks about bodies, or Vadim Zeland talks a little bit about, and Niels Bohr, about two bodies being pulled towards each other. So it's almost like, and I mean sexually or romantically, okay, sorry to be blunt, but there's something here about like somebody who like you're trying to, I feel like they saw part of your soul. I'm thinking of like a door opening to your heart, and you showed them, and they were like, oh, that's so beautiful, and you were like, no one can see. It's just like a little cartoon that's coming up in my mind. You're like, no, only I see this beauty. And they were like, oh, but it's like, it's so beautiful. And then you were like scared, because with showing them this heart of yours, you showed them like your soul and like negative things too. But they were like, I don't care about the negative things, you know? They were like, we can fix that. Or they didn't care about fixing it. They were like, we can work with that. That's coming through. But you tried to run away from this person, and the more you try to run away, the more you're going to feel their energy, and the more they're thinking of you, is what I have to get it. And eventually there will be a point where you see this person again, and there will be some interaction. And it's a beautiful energy. I was thinking of Ram Dass, and he talks about working with anger. So, just as you would hold a yoga pose, just as you would work with a karmic situation, working with anger, like, it's almost like Mara coming to the door. Mara is like the devil in Buddhism. Mara comes to the door, and the Buddha is so masterful that at a certain point he says, hey, let's have tea, having tea with Mara. And so there's something like that for you, where instead of being afraid of your anger or letting it consume you, I'm seeing you watch it now. You're like, oh, she or he's about to get pissed. And then you're like, that makes sense. I validate that anger. And usually lately, you're just not expressing it in the way you used to, which could have been negative or detrimental with South Node Leo. Could have been sometimes like, I'm just getting an energy of someone who never loses their shit until they really lose their shit, which I relate to. You know, like someone who doesn't like get dysregulated until they're pushed to like the brink. And you know what? Rather than waiting for that brink point, it might just be valuable to de-stress in other ways. And I'm seeing that happen, where like you found a lot of stress stuff a lot of ways to deal with this stress stuff that, like, once you get to the breaking point, you're not breaking anymore, and that's really valuable. And I just want to say good job, kudos is what Spirit's saying. Like, okay, I wrote elephant tattoo, elephant wisdom, and I'm just looking again at you're being weaned and psychometry. I do recommend W.S. Merwin just as a poet. Anyway, but you're being weaned. You're being weaned. You're being weaned. The universe is like, they've given you a long time. The spirit guides, they've been like, we see that you can't let go of these old things. It's almost like a pacifier, or being weaned off of breastfeeding, you know? They've been like, we'll give you a couple more months, and now it's time to go. I'm just seeing like a group, like at least 8 spirit guides watching you. And I'm actually seeing them watching you from above, watching your activities, and a couple of them are like people who passed on, and they're really serious, and they're funny because they're high energy, but they're like really, they take your stuff seriously, and they want you to take it seriously, meaning your purpose, your goals, your love, your spirituality, your sense of happiness. They're watching, and they're like, everything that happens to you, they're just like really proud of how you're handling the stress is a main thing I want to say. And I just want to say humble. I shared before, I have Mars in the 6th house, and Mars is ruling my chart. So there's a little humbleness there. We all have our arrogant moments there, but in life. But I'm just getting an energy of like someone who's like humble, and I'm watching spirit, this spirit team I'm getting watch you from above, maybe while you go for a walk or while you're exercising, and they're like, I'm hearing, flow the energy. There may be a time when you just didn't, maybe you really had constipation problems, but you weren't able to let negativity move through you, and you were just like holding on to stuff, and now you're just like flowing, you know, in, out, and they're really excited, this spirit team, about like what you're getting your hands into now. Like, you're going to change yourself, you're going to change others, and you're going to change the world with your love, okay? With your love that you're hooking into for the world. Psychometry, that, you know, that's something that Sonia Chekhet talks about. There could just be like a special object that is imbued with some energy that it's in your sphere, and I almost see that you lost it for a while. Like maybe a pendant or something important, and you found it, and that means that whoever it's related to, they're in your energy again. You know, maybe it's just something a friend gave you, like I'm just thinking like heirlooms or safe keepsakes. I don't know where that came from. Maybe I'm almost getting an energy of like an old friend, but anyway, there's some object that you or maybe a rock, you had it, like maybe you put it on a necklace and you lost it, and now you found it again. And also, you're finding yourself again. I wrote down wabi sabi, which is beauty is imperfection. It's a Japanese philosophy, and a lot of artists work off of that, especially Bay Area. There was like a whole movement of that, I believe, in the 60s, maybe 80s. Wabi sabi is just like working with the imperfections. You know, the Persian rugs, they always leave an imperfect row because only God is perfect. So yeah, there's just some stuff here about like working with our imperfections and like taking a load off of like being so hard on ourselves. You may actually be an artist. That could be really healing. I wrote down Hawaii. Don't strut your stuff. I don't even know where that. Oh, that's the automatic writing. Don't strut your stuff. Have you been to Hawaii? It's really amazing. I went there when I was young, but there's maybe some trauma here with the ocean. I don't even know. Yeah, because it's like there's like maybe some trauma around age 11. That's when I went there, where it was like a high wave that came to get you, but you surfed it. You surfed that wave. Don't strut your stuff. I just want to say, like, there was somebody in the past who you were confident, and they tried to take your confidence and steal your confidence and say, don't strut your stuff, but now you're strutting your stuff. thinking of peacocks and how they perform with their feathers for the males do for the women to get their attention. And yeah, strut your stuff. I am getting a little bit of a male energy, so I don't know if a man's watching this, but I mean, it could just be a woman who has a sort of like masculine energy, which I kind of do because I don't know, I'm a runner and a swimmer, and I can get kind of intense with the athleticism, and can be a little masculine at times. It's okay to switch in and out. I'm just getting a little bit of like somebody who's really trying to play within the lines, and it's like, who made these lines? Like, you need to just like let go. I'm thinking of Elizabeth Wurtzel, who's a great writer, who wrote Prozac Nation. I loved that book. She did die. Maybe this is her energy I'm getting here. She died of cancer. Yeah, she's a really interesting person. She also like had a second career later in life, and then she was a lawyer. There's something here about the law again, maybe that profession. Second chances, something in your life where you're like, I don't deserve another chance. And it's like, look, the chance is coming. The chance is being presented to you. And it's sort of like, you would be a fool not to just take that chance. I wrote down this quote by Joy Sullivan, who I actually don't know who that is, but I'll research it. I found it on Substack. I wrote a pep talk to myself on a bar napkin. No matter which road you take, it will be both glorious and unbearable. Every road is lonely. Every road, the only error is not walking forth. So it's sort of like that. Like, you just have to keep walking forward. And like, I feel like there is a little bit of indecision of like, am I really going the right way? Is this really the right thing? Is this the right place? Should I be in this situation? Just keep going, and it will become clear to you where you do belong and what the better situation is. So that was just a little channeling. Okay, automatic writing. I wrote, you love, don't bend the road. A tiger will guide you. Oh, I'm going to go back. I also wrote, elephant tattoo, elephant wisdom. I'm going to get back to that. A tiger will guide you. Seminole Indians, seminole moment, etymology. Please, please, please me like you want to, which is the Ben Harper song. Daemon, Hermann Hesse. What is the business that keeps you here? Cut my life in two pieces. This is my last resort. I think that's a song by, is it Korn or someone? Okay, and then, yeah, I wrote elephant tattoo, elephant wisdom. Yeah, whew. Okay, so don't bend the road. Don't try to like augment this path that's being put before you. Just follow the road as it opens up, okay? And just follow the path. Seminole Indians, I think they're from Florida, which makes sense because I was talking about Florida. And when I was talking about that crocodile before, or alligator, it's like you've been in a situation where you're like, now I know how to get away from these situations better. And it's like, just let go of the past and let go of any shame or guilt about what's happened or something negative that did happen, and know that now you've got your bike, or you know, or you know, because I was like, I got my bike. Those gators aren't going to get me. Or, you know, you're within a collective, I'm feeling. You're protected. Even if it's just the spirit team. Seminole Indians. A tiger will guide you. It's just maybe this the spirit guide tiger, which can be about ferocity, like just standing up for ourselves. And also camouflage, you know, because they have that, the stripes are so they can blend into the brush, even though you'd think they stand out so much because they're orange. There's something about camouflaging and not trying to like just be guided by your own need to move forward, is what I want to say. You know, just the next right thing will make sense. Abraham Hicks says, like, and then the next step will just be the next obvious step. It will just be like, oh, of course I would do this next, you know. Brush my teeth, of course now I wash my face. Go for a walk, of course now I have an egg breakfast. It will be like that. It will be the next obvious step that will make things better. Etymology, it just might be a good time to like do some like brush up on important words. Specifically, I'm hearing looking up your name. Like, for a while I thought my last name, because it's Perlwitz, it does mean wits of pearl in some translations, but the Greater German translation is like someone who comes from, which means Wicks. Wicks is like of the town, from Pearl, like Pearl area. So that could just be like an old like colloquial name for like a township or something. So, and then my first name is Paulina, which means little, and then Louise is my middle name, which means female warrior. So so I think actually specifically learning the etymology of your name could be really important, because you know, names have purpose and names have value, and that's just important there. Please please me like you want to. There's just like somebody that keeps coming through the energy, like somebody that, the person that holds the torch for you, that is like watching you sort of go through hard things, and you keep trying to get away from them because the energy is too like much, because you're maybe afraid of being loved or loving right now, because maybe you're a little bit detached. I'm hearing sarcophagus, which is what Egyptians put their dead in. It's like a coffin. That means just you may have a little removal right now from others, and please me like you want to. I feel like there's a situation where you're looking for some actually gratification physically, because you weren't having really, maybe you're with someone who was emotionally cold and there wasn't like physical affection, like kissing or hugging very much. And there's somebody new coming into your experience who they're not sure like if you would even be interested in any of that with them. But you're so closed off from your last experience that you're like, does anyone even want to like please me? Damon Hesse. Hermann Hesse is just my favorite writer. He did die isolated in the Swiss Alps by himself. I don't know why that's coming to mind. I think just because I talked about loneliness a lot in this, and like, I don't know, there's just something here about like not being afraid to be isolated, but also keeping in check that basic need to speak to someone. Like, I don't recommend moving to the Swiss Alps with nobody around, but I don't know. My favorite book is Steppenwolf by him. I did write down a different book. I wrote down Daemon, which maybe that has to do with sort of like a negative person from the past, because it means demon. But Steppenwolf, I love it because in the end, it totally steps out of the storyline and becomes like fantastical and like mystical. And there's just something like that where you're stepping out of an old storyline, okay? And you're like, well, I want it like this. And then the universe is like, we want it like that too. Because the universe is pushing you towards your happiness and your joy so that the world can expand. What is the business that keeps you here? There's something that you like, you just feel like, why am I here? Maybe it's just your location. You're like, why am I here? You're here because there's something spiritually that you're healing in the location that you're at. There's something that you're looking at, your soul, your aura is like healing it, and you're being called, and your energy field is changing over time. Your auric field, I'm seeing like a blue color. It doesn't mean that your color is blue. It could mean that there's more blue coming into your aura, that there's just some healing and some peace that like this time is bringing. Also thinking of the ocean. It could just be nice to spend time for the ocean. Some magnesium in your air. So get some magnesium from the salt water. And also just like the healing nature of listening to the waves and being at the ocean and the ebb and flow. The business that keeps you here is healing. Okay, so just know that you're going to be called to the right next place to go. And don't have such a fire under your butt, because be here now. And cut my life into pieces, this is my last resort, is just sort of like, you have felt a little desperate in times, my friend. You felt a little bit like, oh my God, this is my last resort. But, you know, I'm channeling Elaine Warren again. There's just something about like being open to the dead or just maybe never alive spirits that are like guiding you, okay? Seeing the doll Annabelle again. I wonder what she was wanting me to know about the doll. Yeah, there's something about, I'm hearing you're a doll. Okay. You're just a doll. Maybe, I mean that in like, if you're a woman, they're like, you're just lovely, you know? Maybe that's Elaine Warren talking to me, but I do think you're a kind of a doll, even if you're a man. Like you have a nice energy, and even if you get up, dysregulated sometimes or upset, I feel like you're someone who works with energy, and maybe you are like an energy worker, like Reiki or just like healing. But like, I'm thinking of buzzing bees now, as we end. And I got the Queen of Cups and the Death card. As you grow and renew and let things die and change, you're going to be guided towards more and more peace. And maybe even with the bees, just like helping others, like I'm thinking of the queen bee and the hive and the group. And you're like, I have things to give now. I've got some honey to like give to the group, and also I know like the best spots to get the honey. Like I'm not saying you're like a drone bee working as like a worker bee, like you're just a sheep, I'm not saying that. I'm saying like you're like, actually, I really have something that I need to share with this world, with this greater community, and it has to do with nurturing and caring and loving, which is Queen of Cups, and positive energy. And people are really gonna clamp onto that. As the more you offer it and work through your shit, the more you're gonna be reborn, and the more people are gonna just, I'm almost hearing like, they're not gonna want to let you go. Like, your energy is like priceless. And that's the reading.